Hello and welcome to the video overview for the Rock Valley College Computers and Information Systems Department Program Review. I am the narrator for this particular overview, Eric Wolf, one of the privileged individuals who is faculty for the Computers and Information Systems Department. Wolf. Now, first and foremost, some of our program's objectives. We hold that graduates of this program will learn about the following integral parts of the computer science universe. Number one, they will have a broad exposure to computer software. So the development side of computer software and the usage side and the support side of computer software. That continues to the hardware side of things. So the tangible items that our students and who they will be providing support to in the industries will actually be able to touch and interact with. And overall, our graduates will have an understanding of the programming process, all of the human interfaces, all of the contact points that a computer programmer or a computer support personnel would have that kind of span across all of the stakeholders inside of a business. So we like to suggest that Computers and Information Systems program will offer courses that can be successfully transferred to baccalaureate institutions. So this means that we are expanding our 2+2 offerings with Rockford University here in Rockford, and that we have other transfer agreements via IAI, so that our Computers and Information Systems classes can be successfully transferred to other institutions. Indicator 1 for need. Presently, there are 11,400 total developers employed by the state. This is the single largest chunk of the overall computer and information systems ecosystem that belongs to developers. The rest of the CIS pie is distributed amongst, really a wide host of other career fields that still happen to be under the umbrella of computers and information systems. At the time we ran the report, there were currently 780 unfulfilled computer programmer jobs here in the state of Illinois. And again, that does only represent the computer programmer jobs. There are a wide range of other support and data personnel that our CIS students will fill that are presently going unfulfilled here in our state and, of course, nationally. Employment of software developers, quality assurance analysts, testers, and the whole umbrella of CIS is projected to grow 22% from 2020 to 2030, and that was before the pandemic. What we are seeing is that now that there are even more job openings after the pandemic, that these CIS skills are more sought after than they were leading into the pandemic, even 2 short years ago. A reflection of that is the increase in median pay. The national marker for this is $52.95 an hour, or $110,140 per year. Here locally, those wages are a little bit behind the national average, but again, we are seeing anecdotal evidence of students actually being able to negotiate for something that more closely resembles the national average because of the shortage that we have in qualified developers and qualified CIS personnel. For indicator 2 cost effectiveness, the cost for CIS are comparable to other career and tech ed programs. We here internally like to think of ourselves as extremely, we'll call it philanthropic, when it comes to how it is that we approach what the costs for our programs should be. Though all CTE courses do carry the $25 per credit hour fee to cover lab, specialized software, and other expenditures, we do not add anything on top of that. And as a matter of fact, what we try to do with our textbooks and our lab environments is make sure that students have access to those materials for as long as possible, including 18 months for the testing and certification materials that we offer for some of our CIS and some of our other, data and IT assurance and Cisco networking degrees. Among our lower level programming courses, so those introductory courses, those are offered multiple times per semester all year round to accommodate students whenever it is that they are seeking entry into our programs. So that means that if a student is joining us what would be considered traditionally late in the springtime semester, they are still able to take 3 of our core courses: CIS 102, Introduction to Computers and Information Systems; CIS 170, Introduction to Programming Logic and Design; and CIS 276, Introduction to C++ Programming. They're able to take those concurrently in that first semester, even if that first semester is spring. That actually continues on to the summer as well, where we offer CIS 102 and CIS 276 that students can take concurrently, or in the traditional fall entry point. Again, all 3 of these courses are offered simultaneously so that students can really start stacking up those core credits that are necessary for their degree, so that they're not waiting on these courses to come back around next semester. Indicator 3, quality. For our CIS courses, we offer them across all learning modalities to accommodate working adults and our traditional pipeline students. What this means is that we offer hybrid courses, online courses, and traditional courses, often of the same course in the same semester, so that students can elect to take the course that meets their learning modality. So we can take CIS 102, our introduction course, as an example. That is offered in the traditional 2 times a week during the day format, the hybrid once a week at night format, and the online format. The same goes for our upper level CIS 276 course, Introduction to C++ Programming. That is offered during the day, and it is offered online so that we can cast a wide net when it comes to the students that we're able to capture with those course offerings. All of our content is contextualized by integrating hands-on learning and active learning into every one of our classes. As a department, we do not typically rely on testing for all of our assessment. We traditionally rely on computer-based training, project-based training, so that students have a more holistic idea about how these different concepts are going to be, actually put into place when they are in whatever industry ecosystem it is post-graduation. Continuing on here with indicator 3, quality, we have a number of secondary to post-secondary relationships with area high schools and school districts for both dual credit and articulated credit courses. And what that means for CIS is an extremely strong pipeline for our courses. We work with the Meridian School District, Harlem School District, and Belvedere North, and we offer many of our introductory CIS courses, the aforementioned CIS 102, Intro to Computers, CIS 170, Introduction to Programming Logic and Design, CIS 276, Intro to C++. Those see a tremendous amount of our dual credit and articulated credit students from the high schools. The CIS department has also a relatively newly developed 2+2 agreement with Rockford University here in town to transfer our credits from CIS and from our web programs. The agreement is fantastic because Rockford University takes far and away the most credits towards their CIS and towards their their web degrees. So the pipeline there between our 2-year institution and their 4-year institution is gaining traction now, and we're very, very hopeful that we will see, a tremendous amount of uptake here as we get more in-person classes running here after the pandemic, and we can really start to show the value of those programs to those students on the ground. Finally, for indicator number 3, the materials we use are constantly updated so that students enjoy up-to-the-minute hardware, software, and platforms so that they're best prepared after graduation. One of the things we offer as a CIS department is essentially a developer's environment for our students. They will use tools such as GitHub so that they are accustomed to versioning versions of software as they get into whichever ecosystem it is that they are going to graduate onto. That's going to make them more ready to participate immediately. We use industry standard softwares for development. So we use Visual Studio, we use Replit, we use Atom, and whatever tools it is that are prominent amongst developers in those ecosystems, that's what our students are going to use. So they really have a good, clear line from the classroom to being employed as they're coming through our programs. And we like to say that about 75% of our students pass our classes according to our DFWI rates. That is a very good penetration for some of our our entry-level courses. So our CIS 102 is something that students from across campus have to take, and we have very high success rates with that. Even courses like our Introduction to Programming courses or our Programming Logic and Design courses, which are oftentimes the very first foray that a lot of our students will have in a real developing environment, in a real programming environment, we still see nearly 3/4 of students successfully complete those classes. And that is a very high marker among all of our, competing schools. So that's something that we very much like to lean on internally here at CIS. Indicator 4, performance and equity. Student demographic information, success and enrollment data was reviewed for our program and our occupation reviews for the 2-county and 10-county regions, and also against national data. So when students come to us with what some of their expected outcomes are, as more and more of these jobs are becoming remote, the location doesn't matter as much for our students. So they are starting to explore both the region and nationally more and more, because the pandemic has really shown that location is not as important as it used to be. Something that we mentioned in our CLNA was that there is an industry representative, but a tremendous gap in the percentage of female and minority student populations represented here at Rock Valley College. And in the traditional STEM programs, there is this representation gap that we see nationwide. This is something we hope to address with further recruiting and by working with our newly created Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Department here at Rock Valley College. Our male enrolled population is representative of the Rockford area. About 45% of our enrollees come from a racially diverse background. That is higher than the Rock Valley College average. But once again, the female population representation at CIS is lower at 33%. This is something we are perpetually working to address. To address these concerns, CIS has created, this is bullet number 3, I'm skipping around a little bit, has created clubs like Girls Who Code, State Light Women in Code, and the RVC Hour of Code, as well as the Tech Bus. And these are all efforts to increase access, to increase enrollment, and to hopefully reach more and more of these diverse populations. As noted above here, 57% of our CIS students are first-generation college students, so that does represent a challenge for us. There's just not a lot of generational support there, and CIS is a technical degree. Something that we are proud of is that students in CIS are more than 10% more likely to be of a racially diverse background. So 44% for CIS versus 31% as the RVC average. We maintain several online channels so that we can reach current and prospective students in a more, traditional way for our digital natives, the ones who are coming up in the generations that have never not had computer and internet access. So we maintain an rvccis.info, that is actually a URL, where we maintain videos and audio. We have an Audacity channel. We have an rvccis.info YouTube channel where our full-time instructors will get together and do essentially a podcast for current and prospective students in all things in the universe of CIS. We maintain a rvccis.info Facebook and Twitter page, and we also have a Rock Valley College Girls Who Code page so that we can hopefully cast as wide a net as possible and reach some of these diverse populations that we know we should be growing internally at RVC. Moving back to something we can brag a little bit more about here at CIS are some of our strengths. Like we mentioned before, students really do use industry standard online and offline tools to best be prepared for the industries that they are entering. This is something that not all schools are able to offer. They have a tendency to stick with the older, more, we'll call them mature technologies, and we try to be at the cutting edge of what students are going to see when they get out into the ecosystems that they're going to find employment in. So we use GitHub, we use online file repositories so that students can version software. That's how they're going to be tracking and managing software when they get into the industries. Students will use Visual Studio Code, they will use Atom, they will use software that are used in various ecosystems. We have computer labs that are really very good at mimicking the kinds of materials that the students are going to see in those prospective industries. So if it is a web design class, we are using Max because probably that's what they'll use in the industries. When we are teaching C++ courses, they are going to use machines and REPLs and things that they are going to see in the industry. So we feel that students are very prepared from a technology standpoint when it comes to completing their degree and being instantly capable of taking a job in the industry. Hardware across our disciplines meets or exceeds industry standards. We just mentioned those, but very much I like to point to our Mac labs. I very much like to point to all of our developers' environments that we use so that students absolutely are ready when they get to production environments. Recently, we have really worked on our increased transfer opportunities for students pursuing a 4-year degree. Our recently developed 2+2 with Rockford University, our expanding credit opportunities with Illinois schools. These are positives for students. It gives them a venue to pursue continued education after our degree and certification programs. And finally, just to brag a little bit about our adjuncts, who are clear subject matter experts and give students real world learning and networking opportunities. We very much enjoy an active and engaged adjunct set in CIS. They are a tremendous asset to our students. We have instructors with a wealth of programming experience. We have instructors with a wealth of networking experience. We have instructors with a wealth of web programming experience. And all of these things are used for the benefit of the students. And really the care that our adjuncts use with developing those relationships with students and developing those skill sets that they know they're going to need really is a tremendous opportunity and strength for the CIS department. Certainly, several opportunities present themselves for CIS. We are continuously expanding our portfolio of social media outreach. So, for instance, our YouTube, our Twitter, our Facebook, etc. We know that students as digital natives now need these extra tools so that we can reach them where they are. So by developing, for instance, our YouTube channel, we know that we reached many students who otherwise were via the pandemic or via scheduling, etc., or even just via the considerations and the constraints in a classroom. It's impossible to cover everything that's happening in the industry, but here, via these social platforms, we're able to reach out and extend on the topics that we can cover in a classroom, and hopefully we can reach more equitably some of our additional populations and create more new student streams into our programs. Really, I would like to highlight here we have outstanding support from advising and retention via career services, and that has meant absolutely better outcomes for our students. The relationship that we have developed with advising and retention, their ability, their willingness to learn about our programs, their willingness to help students when it comes to transfer opportunities has really been a boon here on the other side, hopefully, of the pandemic. And this really represents for us an opportunity to grow and to scale up our student population. We are looking to further align with industry partners via stronger and more rigorous advisory committee structures. We have used the advisory committee to help review our programs. We have used the advisory committee to help advertise and to fill our classes, but we are exploring using the advisory committee to do more involved work when it comes to what course offerings we might be using, some of the language that we're using, some of the languages that we are teaching, some of those developers tools that we are teaching. So to better align with industry, we are looking to deepen that relationship with the advisory committee members. And finally, we are looking to expand and better our pipelines with relationships with area high schools. We do have the Meridian, the relationship with Belvedere North, etc., but we are always looking to expand these. We are adding more courses to those relationships. We are hopefully working to get more students into the pipeline via these articulated and dual credit relationships. Action items needed on behalf of the CIS department include increased offerings of both in-person and online course offerings. As students return to the classroom, they are, certainly many of them are anyway, embracing the opportunity to have hybrid and traditional courses. So we are looking to increase our offerings for those. On the flip side of that, many students had used those years, frankly, of the pandemic and have acclimated to learning remotely. So some of our popular classes, CIS 102, Intro to Computers and Information Systems, CIS 276, that is our Intro to C++, and Web 101, that is Introduction to Programming Related to the Internet, are extremely popular online, and we look to increase offerings similar to that for our students. As we mentioned before, with our opportunities, enhancing our dual and articulated credit pathways is a major focus moving forward for the CIS department. And finally, a continued exploration of new and emerging technologies like big data and like distributed computing. Really, the next epoch of computers and information systems is going to be dealing with these intersections between exceedingly large pools of data. And we need students to be aware of that. Some of this is already happening in our C++ courses, in our programming logic and design courses, but we need to explore how we can deepen this or expand to offer big data classes. As far as distributed computing, not everything is going to be done locally as we move forward. So what can we do? We're exploring Amazon Web Services platform, Microsoft Azure Services platform. What can we do to help students understand that not everything has to be on campus? It can be located in the cloud. These will be the next considerations that students will have to be aware of when they get into their prospective industries. If there are any questions, please feel free to forward them to me via any of those links located here under the video. You can use our social platforms at rvccis.info or to the email account listed below.